Well, Nazanin Boniadi, the Iranian-born British actress and human rights activist, spoke to me a little earlier and started by expressing her shock at what we've been seeing.
I'm extremely alarmed. I'm very concerned for the people on the ground, especially since they have lost, their internet has been shut down by the Iranian authorities so they can continue killing and injuring protesters in the dark. So my priority right now is to get internet access back to the Iranian people.
I'll come back to how you perhaps do that in a moment, but you were born in Iran, your family fled the revolution, you stayed in touch with so many people in the country. Give me an idea of the sorts of things they've been saying to you.
I'm hearing from hundreds of people every day inside Iran, most of them very young. I'm talking late teens to mid-20s. And they're saying that they are done with this regime, that they keep rising up. Every few years, you had, of course, the big 2009 protests where the demands were very different. It was, where is my vote? There were calls for reform. And then in 2019, you started to see calls for the Islamic Republic to be toppled and for democracy. And now you're seeing that escalated to the next level. They are done with this regime. They want them gone.
But 2019, it was brutally put down. Amnesty have been speaking about their alarm at the harrowing pattern of the security forces deliberately firing live ammunition into protesters. We are seeing again a really brutal crackdown, aren't we?
Yes, we are. But unfortunately, there's no adequate human rights governance in the world. There's no mechanism for us to hold autocrats responsible and accountable. There are no avenues domestically for justice and accountability inside Iran. So what we are calling for, and Amnesty is calling for, is for people to call their representatives and demand, wherever they may be, Europe, America, to demand that these lawmakers stand with the Iranian people and create mechanisms that holds the Iranian authorities to account.
In terms of the response from the regime and the way they put it down, is this not heading towards 2019? Are you not pessimistic that exactly in the way that hundreds of people were killed and the protests stopped, we'll see a repeat of that this time?
The only thing we have is hope. And what I'm hearing from inside Iran is, please stand by us. Please don't let this die out like it did and let us be crushed like we were in 2019. As an artist, my only responsibility with someone with a microphone, is to amplify their voices and to stand by them. We have a responsibility to stand by them. What I am seeing that's different is a global response that's much more escalated this time. People are really standing by the women in particular of Iran who are at the forefront of this fight and who are risking everything. And then men this time are showing up and really standing with them, risking their lives. And this is no longer just about Mahsa Amini, Gina Amini. It's also about the countless people who have been, over 50 people we're hearing have been killed in the protests so far. Hundreds more have been seriously injured. We need this to stop. We need an international response that is adequate enough for the Iranian people to self-determine and get the freedom they deserve.
And of course, it underlines just the extent of the bravery of those women and the men who are still going out to protest, given everything the regime from the president downwards has said, warning against these sorts of protests and the consequences. The regime have also been trying to say that the hijab is part of Iranian culture. I know for people watching around the world, you are very keen to actually put that record straight on that.
Absolutely, Matthew. What kind of social or cultural norm needs to you don't need to subjugate people in order to implement a cultural norm. You don't need to bludgeon women to death to implement a cultural norm. This is laughable. And if you look at the images from pre-1979 Iran, you had a peaceful coexistence of women who wore the hijab and women who didn't wear the hijab. That's what we want. We want the freedom to choose, and we want women to be able to express themselves freely. This is not a cultural thing in Iran. The hijab, the forced hijab, is definitely not cultural. Nothing forced is cultural.
You're there in the US. The US have announced easing internet curbs on Iran to try to help people there in that country get the information that they require. You mentioned it right at the start of the interview. What else can be done in terms of internet access?
There are a number of things. There are Iranians in the diaspora, for example, Mehdi Yahyajad, who's created Touche app, and I highly recommend supporting that because there are measures to circumvent censorship inside Iran. There are VPNs, of course, like Outline VPN by Google, which, there's a very minimal cost of $6 a month for people in America and Europe and the world to have access to Outline VPN and then provide it to people inside Iran, to share it with people inside Iran. They need reliable VPNs. They need people to send them these things. And hopefully Starlink is active in Iran. We need those terminals inside Iran, and we're working on those that right now.
A final thought, because you were making the point there is a danger if the international community doesn't follow through, that all of these protesters are literally left on their own. If you had a message to Iran's supreme leader, what would it be?
I'm pretty sure that Iran's supreme leader is not going to be listening to me. But all I can beg for is for mercy. And to look at the people and to see them as your own children. Hopefully the leader of any kind of country would see their citizens as their own children and have mercy. These are innocent people, very young. I'm talking teenage children, and women are also being killed in these protests. It's unacceptable. It's a crime against humanity, and he needs to stop.
That was Nazanin Boniadi talking to me a little earlier, a postscript on that story, because Canada is to sanction those responsible for Mahsa Amini's death, including Iran's so-called morality police and its leadership. That's come from Canada's foreign minister following the lead from the US last Thursday.